What is the Dallas Stars' plan without Lian Bichsel? We'll preview the Ottawa Senators and play shooting star on today's episode of Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. What is the Dallas Stars' plan without Lian Bichsel for the foreseeable future now that Matt Dumba has been activated off the IR? That's the question of the day. We're going to walk through it on today's episode. We're going to preview the Ottawa Senators, and we will play Shooting Star to wrap up a Thursday edition of Locked On Stars. Happy New Year, by the way, Stars fans. And the Stars got off to a great start in 2025. Not really. I guess it was a win in 2024 to end the year, but a big 4-2 victory over the Buffalo Sabres in this next stretch here of 5 games for the Stars, I think could be a major turning point in the 2024-25 season. At least that's what I hope it can become. Well, Lian Bichsel was loaned back to the Texas Stars in the AHL a couple of days ago, now that Matt Dumba has been activated off the IR. And of course, that sent a lot of Stars fans into a spiral, including myself, because I said it just a couple of games after he made his impressive debut with Dallas here this season that I think Lian Bichsel is clearly one of the best 6 defensemen for the Dallas Stars. Clearly one of the 6 best defensemen. And I think he helps you win hockey games. And I feel he deserves to be up with the Dallas Stars for the foreseeable future. But I also discussed this with Sam Nessler a bit a few weeks ago on Locked On Stars, that I can see the benefit of Bichsel going back to the AHL, playing some big minutes, playing against similar competition. It's not as good as the competition he's going to play in the NHL, obviously, and he really hasn't looked out of water that much. There was one game where I thought the game was a bit fast for him, and that was Washington, was the one game that I thought maybe Bichsel was a bit out of his element, but it wasn't like he was getting torched the entire game. You could just see that it was his first impression playing as a really, really good Washington team. And sometimes you're going to have some games like that in your career. Thomas Harley did, Miro Heiskanen did, John Klingberg did, right? You go through some of those growing pains. But for what he brings to the Dallas Stars as a whole, they need so bad. And I don't think Matt Dumba or Brendan Smith can replace that. Dumba played really, really good the other night against Buffalo. Thought it was a really strong game and pretty surprising after his last game was on December 8th. So he hadn't played in what, 24 days or so. And I thought he played a really strong game with Thomas Harley. So the pairings win is this. It was Heiskanen, Lyubushkin, Lindell Lundqvist, Harley, Dumba, which is something we thought could possibly be the pairings coming into this season, and it wasn't quite that, but I like Lyubushkin and Miro. But you look at some of the numbers, and it's pretty baffling to see where Miro's expected goals for are with depending on his partner. And we know him and Dumba, which we thought hopefully was going to be an answer to get Miro on his strong side. It really wasn't. Their expected goals for 3.3 and the expected goals against 4.5. So they weren't even strong defensively. Miro with really anybody else is positive on that side of the analytics. Expected goals for and expected goals against. Heiskanen and Harley, no surprise. Expected goals for is 13.4. But obviously, I think they would like to get away with that. You know, I think they can rock along with Heiskanen and Lyubushkin, who don't give you as quite the offensive numbers as you would hope, but they're strong defensively. We know what Lyubushkin is. He gives Miro a steady partner and someone we thought they could have partnered with Miro a lot earlier in the year, and we're seeing it a bit more. The moneypuck.com has it as 25 games, 115 minutes for Miro and Lyubushkin, and that's a really, really strong pairing. Harley and Dumba, I thought looked really, really good on New Year's Eve. And I think it's because they really complement each other's games better than Dumba does Miro, just because Harley, by the way, is putting up a fantastic season. But I think Dumba, if you really get down to, is sort of what he was with the Wild a few years ago, right? When he was at his best in Minnesota. He's still that type of player, but I think he gives you some shades of what Thomas Harley's sort of becoming, like was strong, a two-way defenseman that has really, really good offensive pop. That's not what Dumba is anymore, but Dumba is sort of, I guess, a version of Hakanpää, which we saw Harley with at points when he wasn't with Lundell. And I think that can be a really, really strong pairing for Dallas. So I think the answer without Lian Bichsel moving forward, if you're not going to have him, is sort of what we saw on New Year's Eve. And frankly, DeBoer is going to switch and move around Miro and Lindell as necessary, right? I think they're very fluid. Lindell and Lyubushkin are going to get a lot of the penalty kill minutes. They're going to be out late. You'll see Miro with Harley on offensive zone draws. If they're looking for offense, they're very fluid. But Lindell and Lundqvist's been such a strong defender in general this season. I know they would like him to produce a bit more offensively, but look, the strides he's made as an NHL defenseman in general have been huge. The offense comes or it doesn't. You should rely more on Miro and Harley, and Miro especially needs to produce more than he has so far this season. Harley and Miro are both at 17 points this season, which I would think most Stars fans would say they're underachieving, and the power play certainly has something to do with that. That's where you can really rack up the points, and it just hasn't been the case. Bichsel and Lyubushkin, just to give you some numbers, since we have enough to kind of take stock in some of what we saw while Bichsel was here. And he played most of his minutes with Lyubushkin. They played over 50 minutes. Their expected goals for 1.7, so it was the lowest out of any pairing with the Stars, but kind of not shocking, even though Bichsel scored a couple of goals. But the expected goals against 1.7, that was the lowest. And again, it's just 50 minutes this season, but that pairing was pretty shut down. They had some growing pains, and it wasn't all perfect. I can name a couple of plays. The one against Toronto where they both took the man, and it was slipped behind, and Nylander beat Ottinger. And there was some moments where it wasn't all perfect, but Bichsel is getting implemented into a new system and learning on the fly. And Lyubushkin is also getting used to Bichsel. That's the learning curve you have to go through. And I think for what they did in a short span was really, really strong. So there are some numbers with Bichsel there for you in case you were interested in just some of the more analytical output from Bichsel and Lyubushkin. I think the trend is, though, and I don't want it to be a bash Dumba, but look, the really three of the worst four pairings for Dallas, I think have Dumba on the pairing. Whether that's Miro, he did look good with Harley, or Dumba and Smith, who we've seen for a minor amount this season. They have to shelter Dumba in a lot of ways. They have to make him work with somebody. And I don't know if there's a perfect fit. And I think now where the frustration lies for me is it feels like you're just playing Dumba because you feel you have to, because you're paying him, and it's not because he's one of your best defenders. And that's why I was very skeptical of his contract back in the summer at 3.75. Like, that's a lot of money for a guy that hasn't proven to be near the level he was at his prime in Minnesota. And we're hoping he could find it here. And he has some moments. If you get Dumba from the other night more consistently, you can live with it to some degree. But at the same time, knowing you have a better defenseman that can impact the game at a much greater level, and you're not using him because, well, you have to activate Dumba off the IR, and it like I said, it seems like you have to find a way to get him in the lineup. And it is December, right? Or we're in January now. They wanted to get him in a game. It had been 3 weeks. I understand that. And you're going to have some of that throughout the season. At some point, I guarantee Brendan Smith will check in probably in one of these 2 home games here, either tonight against the Sens or in a few days against Utah, in order to get him into the lineup. But when you look at what Bichsel has done and has brought to the table, and when you need to win hockey games, like, you need to start making a push in the Central. And yes, it is early. It is January, but it feels like you could get left behind if there isn't a really strong push. And look, I hope Dumba and Harley is actually a pairing that maybe you can rely on here in the foreseeable future. But I mean, Lindell and Lundqvist are spectacular. Just as a pair, the way Lundqvist has matured as a defenseman, and you know what you get in Lindell, who continues to just be a workhorse, and I think could be almost spectacular into his late 30s with just how he plays. I mean, he's only 30 years of age, and while they extended him to through 2028, I mean, if you get this level out of him year in and year out, he's going to be brilliant. So I mean, that seems to be the plan moving forward, but don't get it twisted. Bichel's one of the 6 best defensemen on the Stars. You just get into a situation now where fans hate to see, but Dumba's a veteran. You paid him in the offseason. You have to play him to some degree. I hate the argument, but Bichsel can be ready come postseason time, or, just in a few weeks, right? There's injuries and all kinds of things that I'm sure, hopefully, I'll knock on wood, don't happen, but can occur here within the next few months. But if you ask me, Bichsel has to be on the roster come postseason time. He has to be. I think he's earned it with what we've seen. But it's not a bad thing necessarily. Goes down to AHL, continues to develop a bit more. Does it do a lot for him? I don't know. I'm sure it does. It can be valuable. Look at Harley last year. It can be very valuable. But it is frustrating just because of what he's already shown you in such a small sample size. It makes you excited for the future, so you want to see him more. So I understand that, but I would assume that's sort of the approach without Bichsel and him being back in Texas for the foreseeable future. And Dumba hopefully will continue to bring the game we saw the other night against the Sabres. Let's hope for that, and hope for another victory this evening against the Ottawa Senators, who are starting to turn it on as of late. They're back in the playoff mix as they try to really turn things in the right direction. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories of 2024 was going to a concert. The energy and the excitement are so fantastic. And I went to Game Time, and it makes it so easy to get your tickets. They have this new feature as well called Game Time Picks. Filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And Game Time gives you the view from your seat before you buy it. We've all been to venues before where you get blocked out by a pole. There's a piece of glass. Who knows? And you think to yourself, I wouldn't have bought these tickets if I had known that game time. It takes all the guesswork out of doing that. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, and they give you the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKED OWNNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. The Dallas Stars taking on Brady Tkachuck and the Ottawa Senators, who are 19-15-2. They have won 7 out of their last 10 games, starting to turn it around after what we thought was going to be maybe a very underwhelming and another disappointing season in Ottawa, but they're starting to play some of their best hockey. They took down Minnesota the other night, 3-1. They're scoring at a decent clip. Their goals against is where they've made large strides from a year ago, and that is mainly because of Linus Ullmark, who of course was traded to Ottawa in the offseason. 12-7-2 record, 2.38 goals against average, and .915 save percentage. So he has been worth every penny, which is not a surprise. Number one goaltenders can quickly change can quickly change the outlook on your franchise. Although he did not play on Sunday against Minnesota, he's dealing with a bit of a back injury. Anton Forsberg was placed on the injured reserve. He was their backup. So they have had to go to the well a bit in terms of their goaltending. Merlanen this season has been good for the couple of starts he has gotten. A young Finnish netminder. Sogard is another that has gotten a few starts here recently. So we'll get some more updates on whether Ullmark or Forsberg will be good to go. But they're finding ways to win hockey games. And Stutzle, who's a fun player, is certainly one to watch. Obviously, we know what Brady Tkachuck brings to the table. Sort of a Jamie Benn play style. Like he's physical, he's in your face, he's not afraid to chuck him, can be a dirty player. He kind of lives on that edge. But Stutzle is very talented German, has 40 points this season in 36 games. They just have young, fun talent. I mean, Batherson's a great player. He's one of their main playmakers on the power play. He has seven power play goals this season. He's got 11 power play points. Like, they have cleaned it up on special teams. And if you look at the head-to-head, Ottawa's at 25% this season. That's 7th in the NHL on the power play. Their PK is in the bottom third at 77.5%, but they're scoring over 3 goals per game. They're giving up under 3. And they've beaten some pretty good teams recently, like Minnesota, Vancouver, Seattle, Carolina, right? Those are a handful of their wins here in their last 10 games. So they have, I think, probably underrated and so silky, mobile back end. Guys like Jake Sanderson, watched him play in college at North Dakota, like as slippery as they come. And I believe he was a freshman the year I watched him, and it's like, okay, this game's almost too easy for him. And he's having a big time season with 21 points for them. Shabbat, really, really good. I mean, just left shot defenseman that, has sort of made his way in the NHL already. And he's just 28 years of age. Nick Jensen on the back end. Like, there's a lot of guys you can point to that are a big reason why Ottawa's is turned it around here recently. So they're coming to the AAC here, game 1 of 2 of this season series. And Dallas, I'm telling you, this could be a nice little kickstart here into 2025 if they can find a way to beat a team that's coming in on some form, right? Yeah, they're a wild card team, but so is Dallas. So this is another good test. Their best line, if you look at their expected goals for, if you want to go down that route is sort of their young guns with Brady, Tkachuck. I get you the actual trio here. It's Cousins, Pinto, and Amadio, which is sort of their big kind of fourth line checking line. But Tkachuck, Norris, and Batherson, who have played 95 minutes together, have an expected goals percentage of above 60. Really, anybody that's along with Tkachuck is going to have pretty decent numbers. So their expected goals per 60. Tkachuck, Stutzle, and Greg, 3.33. They haven't played a ton, but yeah, they bring some talented young playmakers to the table. So a team at 5-on-5 that's been okay this season. It's they're around 11th at expected goals percentage at 51%. You look at their Corsi percentage, Ottawa's, inside the top 10. So it's a good 5-on-5 team. And obviously special teams will make you pay. So they have to stay out of the box. Number one, Dallas does. And they didn't do that, or they did, I should say, on New Year's Eve. And again, I mean, look, it's probably going to come down to the special teams conversation, right? If Dallas can pot home a power play goal or two, look, they should win this game. They should have no issues. But the power play has been a major factor in a negative way. Hopefully, the 1-for-7 the other night against Chicago sort of sparked something. They were 0-for-1 the other night, but it looked so dangerous. I mean, if it wasn't for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Dallas should have scored on that man advantage. So there you go. There's a little rundown of the Senators here this season, and they're coming in on some form. All righty, now time for Shooting Star on a Thursday edition of Locked On Stars. The first pick for 2025 Stars fans, so make it a good one. I will share mine in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick a W. You can bet on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and there are so many different ways for you to get involved on FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app, takes 30 seconds, and you can get in on the action. Live play-by-play while you're watching the Sunday slate, or I should say the Saturday and Sunday slate. Now, Week 18 is here, and then the playoffs are right around the corner. So get in on the regular season action now so you're prepared for the playoffs. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance to win $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Shooting Star on January 2nd, a Thursday, and y'all were dead on Jason Robertson. I went with Jamie Benn on New Year's Eve. I feel like I could have gave it to him, but it's hard to ignore a 3-point night from Robertson. So credit to you wonderful Locked On Stars listeners for nailing that one. Y'all have been on a very, very good run lately. So who do we go for tonight as the Stars are looking to put away a young squad sort of similar to Buffalo in a lot of ways? I'm going to go with Wyatt Johnston tonight. He's been as advertised. I think we're seeing more of what we saw out of Johnston from the last few months of 2024. Starting to trickle in here recently. And him with Duchesne and Ben looks dangerous. I said it the other day. 22 scoring chances at 5-on-5 out of the 37 total. 22 scoring chances for that trio. They didn't even get on the board besides Johnston. So I'm having a big night for the trio. Maybe it could just be that entire line, but I'll go with Johnston specifically. That line gets rewarded tonight against Ottawa. Big time contest from 53 and the boys. So I'm going with Johnston. Let me know your pick in the comments below, as well as voting on the YouTube community tab. Appreciate all the cooperation and participation on that. So there you go. That is today's Shooting Stars segment on a Thursday, January 2nd, kicking off a new year as we keep chugging along here. The Stars currently in the first wildcard spot in the West, 22-13-1 with 45 points. They can get on a run here, Stars fans. I'm telling you. U.S. plays tonight, I believe, as well in the World Juniors. So be on the lookout for that. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't watched World Juniors, go ahead and turn it on. It can be tough to watch. I know it's on it's on NHL Network. I know not everybody gets it. I believe it's a 2:30 start. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's a 2:30 start as U.S. is playing Switzerland. So just a lot of good stuff in general. Sports World, just has been pumping out good stuff. Obviously, the college football playoff. Everything seems to be happening right now. So anyways, there you go. That'll wrap up a Thursday edition of Locked On Stars. I will be pumping out an episode tomorrow on a Friday, breaking it all down. And just a heads up on the weekend, I will not be able to put out a weekend episode on Saturday against Utah. Back to sort of the grind here in the North American Hockey League. So another 3 games I have to do this weekend, which will be fun. Can be long. But I've been having a blast, and the Ice Rays are the first place team right now. Well, actually, they just got jumped to second in the South. But such a great year they're having. So hopefully we can continue that here into 2025. Anyways, enough rambling. Have a great rest of your day. Happy New Year again. In case you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome to Locked On Stars. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe as well. Have a great day. Enjoy the game tonight. See you tomorrow to break it all down. So long, Stars fans.